In a city that has been racked with controversy and strife in the wake of the death of Freddie Gray in police custody, it is now the voters' turn to have a say. And for the two frontrunners, State Senator Catherine Pugh and former Mayor Sheila Dixon, a soon-to-come day of reckoning. Which is why the Real News interviewed both just days before the citywide balloting begins, to engage the candidates in a virtual debate by asking them similar questions about the thorny issues that continue to plague the city: crime, affordable housing, policing, and poverty. What innovative ways do you have to increase city revenue, to reduce taxes, and to restore tax equity between the cities and the counties?
For example, we got 30,000 board of houses in our city, 15,000 of which the city owns. And while I see vacancy values having some real value in our city, I want us to do filling up those houses at scale. I want us to do it in a massive way. I talk about the Dollar House program and how we bring that back in a different way because we don't have the federal dollars. But because of the AA bond rating that this mayor has helped us to get to, it is an opportunity for us to look at how we create our own low interest loan programs, how we look at neighborhoods and begin to plan how we redevelop them. And why not create a lottery, for example, for these houses and have people pay $100 to join the lottery. And if we deem a block worth rehabbing, maybe it's a 3,000 block of Edding or Jones Street or whatever that is, and we draw a lottery and say we're going to select the number of people who are going to participate in this block. And we want them all to start rehabbing their houses at the same time so that people can see change taking place.
And I've reduced the property tax in my tenure several times. I'm going to go back and revisit the formula that we created as it relates to Horseshoe, because right now that money's not being used for that, and that was why I supported that, using a percentage of that for schools and the reduced property tax. I'm going to do a number of performance audits in our agencies and assess where we are, what it looks like. But if we get rid and put some of these vacant properties on the tax rolls, if we reassess some of the fees that we are charging in order to live and be able to be in this city, we'll be able to use that revenue to reduce the property tax.
Would you be willing to use the public sector to create more employment? And also, do you support Mary Pat Clark's bill to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour by 2020?
Well, let me just say this. What I'm trying to get people to do is to really have real jobs. I'm not even talking about the minimum wage, because what I'm going to do is take our Office of Employment Development and how we train people in classrooms and then we go try to find them jobs. I'm going to partner with the public sector, with our private industry, and I'm going to say, look, I know you all have jobs because we have jobs down at the port, we have jobs at Amazon, we have jobs coming on via other projects that are taking place in the city, but we're not getting those 77,000 people to work. And we know by virtue of the Baltimore Neighborhood Indicators Alliance, which is the research arm of the University of Baltimore, where those jobs are at their worst in terms of people being employed. We know, for example, that in the Old Town Mall area, that is the #1 high unemployment area in the city. And then when we look at Park Heights and Sandtown, Winchester, and Cherry Hill, all of those areas are in the top 10 areas where unemployment is at its highest. And I really thought about this idea, and I said, I woke up one morning about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I said, well, how do we get people to working in our city? Because we know we have some jobs. So why don't we train people on the job? Instead of training them in the classroom, go find a job, train them on the jobs to those opportunities that exist.
I've been in the midst of a campaign. What I want to start off with, and I hope that I get to support and work with Mary Pat, is with city government. And I put that in on my proposals, $15 an hour. And I need to look at that. I understand where she's going with that. What I don't want to see happen is that we lose businesses as a result. And I think something can be worked out. The bottom line is we need our residents to make a livable wage to take care of their families. And I believe that when everybody's at the table and we work through this process, that it can be a win-win. Because that's it. We want to get people at a point where they can take care of their families and not have to work 2 and 3 jobs in order to put food on the table.
60 years of private-public partnerships, for example, those made in the Inner Harbor, have not reduced poverty in Baltimore. And now we've just learned that Sagamore Development has signed a memorandum of agreement with the city that will grant a waiver, among other things, from exclusionary housing law. Do you support this specific deal and these type of deals going forward?
I think the Sagamore project has some good things to offer the city, especially when it comes around transportation, because they're looking at building the SkyTram, which is rapid rail throughout that particular area. What I'd like to see us do is take a lesson and learn how to expand that across the city. I've had discussions already with the Chinese delegation about how they're also interested in helping to develop our red line system back again here in our city. But when I think about TIFs, why they came about so that we can fix neighborhoods that aren't working. So as the next mayor, prayerfully, the voters give me that opportunity, I want to focus on how we rebuild those neighborhoods where unemployment is at its highest, and also who we're partnering with. Who are we making sure, if we're going to balance wealth in the city, then that means we got to be more inclusive. And that's where I think, have made a lot of our mistakes.
Well, let me say this. First of all, I would have loved for that process to have waited for the new administration, because I think we have to look at, do they need every dollar? Secondly, as I said to the developers who are looking at this with Under Armour, that we just can't limit things to Port Covington. We have to make a commitment to Westport, Cherry Hill, Curtis Bay, the Hanover Street Bridge. Third, inclusionary housing has to be a part of any huge opportunity. Even if it's a block of renovating properties, inclusionary housing has to be a part of that, because we need quality housing for all of our citizens and residents. And so I was very bothered by that yesterday. I'm not there. I don't know the numbers. I haven't seen it. But that would have been on the table and not something that we would have negotiated.
So you would not have approved that inclusionary housing exemption?
Oh, definitely not.
Okay.
Would you support and fight for a civilian review board with the power to hire and fire the police chief, or a board elected by the people of Baltimore? Since efforts to require civilians to sit on internal disciplinary boards was excluded from the package of reforms passed in Annapolis, what will you do to ensure citizen oversight of policing?
In the package is included the right for Baltimore City and Prince George's County to negotiate with the police union to have voting members on that board who will have voting rights on that board. And so what that means is that the next mayor has to be very strong, has to have a relationship with the union, has to have a relationship with the police department, and I've already had these discussions with the police union and with the police chief, that we must together work at making sure that we have voting members on the trial boards. Because if we're going to build trust in the city, then the community has to be a part of that. After all, we pay taxes, and that's how these jobs exist. And we want more police officers living in our city, and we've got a plan for that. 75% don't. But we have to be more inclusive in the city in terms of how we do things and how we put laws in place. And I believe that this law is going to be very important.
Okay, definitely. And I think that my understanding, the legislation allows the local jurisdictions to decide. And I think having two members from the community, not being selected from the police commissioner, but really having a vetting process of individuals to be a part of that review, definitely. Of course, let's talk about the civilian review, adding teeth to that, so the citizens actually will have input by providing professional staff needed, so that if people have not just a formal complaint, but have a complaint that they want to write a letter or call us or email or show us a picture from a phone, we will be responsive to that. And it's about opening up more opportunities and involving more people to the table.
The council just approved 2 charter amendments which would change the balance of power in the city. One that would change the composition of the Board of Estimates from 5 to 3 elected officials only. The other amendment would allow the council to appropriate money. Do you support either of these changes, and if not, why?
Well, let me just say, this whole idea of lessening the power of the mayor, in my opinion, is just not the right direction for the city to go in. And I would hope that the voters would see through this if it does get the referendum. And I believe that, it is about relationships with the president of the city council. It is about relationships with the city council members. And I promise as the next mayor to have an open door policy and to work closely with the president of the city council and to keep an open door policy for the city council people.
It's unfortunate because I believe because of what this council has gone through with the current administration, not working in partnership, that this has resulted to their frustration. And believe me, I have been talking to members of the councils who introduced this to say, hey, wait till new administration. Believe me, many of those, we're going to have a new council, coming on board practically. And I've been a team player. I worked with the council, with the president of the city council. So it's going to be up to the voters. I think it does handicap the mayor, But let's see what the voters say.
Both campaigns have traded accusations of foul play. Both campaigns have also been accused of providing meals for campaign workers. How has what you've done different from your opponent?
Okay, well, we have provided meals for campaign workers. In fact, what we did was that our campaign workers have to go through 2 hours of training, and they'll be working on election day at various polls. So not only did we provide them with meals, we provided them with rides to go to the polls to vote. We don't tell people who to vote for. In fact, I think when one of the campaign workers was interviewed, said he was a Republican. Another one said they were voting for my opponent. So
We have not told people to meet us at a place for a job, put you on a bus, take you to a poll to vote, take you back to that site, and then say, oh, we'll call you if we need a job. No, we haven't done that. Have we encouraged and worked with seniors this week and getting them to the poll? Yes. But it was not based on them getting a job. It was based on them needing transportation. And many, many campaigns do that. But not come to this location, we're going to give you a job, bring you up here to early vote, then put you back on it, drop you off and say, oh, we'll call you if we need you. Come on.
What about
That's a commitment to people so you're not being sincere and literally you're disappointing people.
This is Taya Graham and Stephen Janis reporting for the Real News Network in Baltimore City, Maryland.